Hey YouTube, it's your girl Dr. J, and today I am doing a video on some of the resources that we're using for health. I had mentioned in my planning video that I was going to be doing some one-on-one sessions with my kids in our weekly schedule where we talk about health. And so I wanted to show you some of the resources. Now, this is one of those topics where there's not going to be a one size fits all for any family. And so many things go into how you tackle health. And by health, I mean, body changes, puberty, maturity, emotions, all that sort of stuff. They're going to be different because kids start puberty at different times. Children have different background experiences. A child that has experienced trauma, especially sexual trauma due to molestation or something like that, they're going to have a much different sort of need for health education than a child that maybe has never heard or seen anything like that. And then this is also a topic where family values, ideas, and norms come into play. And so what's going to be important for one family may be very different for another family. This is definitely a topic that's kind of near and dear to me because my dissertation research was on adolescent sexual health. And I learned a lot doing that. I was not married and didn't have kids at the time, so I didn't know, I didn't see it from a parent perspective, but I knew when I was doing that research that it was going to really affect the way that I parented, because I learned that there was oftentimes a severe gulf between what parents thought was the sexual health ideas, knowledge of their children, and what was those thoughts, ideas, norms, and knowledge that the children had. I learned that you have to be really explicit with kids. There were a lot of things that parents and teachers and even clinicians assumed that children knew that they really didn't. I learned that terms are really important because there were some terms that were being used, especially by children, that were not clinically what they were supposed to be used as. And because the children were saying specific terms, the parents had one idea that wasn't necessarily consistent with the reality for the child. And so that really helped me know that, okay, I want to make sure that when I have kids, I am really talking about things in a way that's going to make sense, and really I will know that I know my children have been told. What they do with that information, we hope is the best, but at least I'll know they've been told. Because one of the biggest tragedies that I saw was a lot of children who were functioning in terms of ignorance. And so I didn't want to have that, for later in life when I had kids. And so these are the books that I have chosen. I'm not saying that they're right for anybody else's family. It's just that these are the books that I've chosen, and I'll show you the things that are in them because I know sometimes we're kind of curious about what's actually in those books. I'll point out things that I've seen comments on, like in Amazon reviews and stuff, that have been issues for people. Like I said, everybody has their own morals, ideas, values, and beliefs. And that's true for my family as well. For those of you who are on my channel, you guys know that we are secular homeschoolers. So we do not homeschool from a religious perspective. It's not that we don't have, spiritual beliefs and ideas and our customs and our norms, but that's not the frame of worldview that we homeschool from. So I'm going to start with what I'm doing with Salamander, because I had mentioned that he was still kind of in theory, And all my kids have done, like, we've watched the documentaries Conception to Birth and Body by Numbers, and so they've all been exposed to the concept that, you know, the way that a baby is made is that the sperm enters the egg and, you know, fertilize it. That, like, they've had all that, and so now we're getting for salamander a little bit lower in the nitty gritty. And so for him, I'm gonna be using It's Not the Stork, a book about girls, boys, babies, bodies, families, and friends. And I really like the book because it tackles each topic very clearly. The content: birds and the bees go to the zoo. So many questions. Girls do this, boys do that. Same, different. Head to toe. Toe to head. What boys have, what girls have. Girls grow up, boys grow up. So many eggs, so many sperm. It's Not the Stork. The Big Swim. The Growing Womb. Pinpoint to Watermelon. The Twisty Cord. All Day, All Night. Boy, Girl, One Baby, Two or More. It's a Baby. Happy Birthday. Cuddles and Kisses. All Kinds of Families. Okay Touches, Not Okay Touches. Girls, Boys, Friends. Growing Up. Believe It. And those are the topics. It's kind of a fun book. It even though it looks really fun and cute, this is content that is appropriate for, in our household, appropriate for 7 and up. In some households it may be appropriate younger, but I'm going to point out some things that you will have to make those decisions for yourself. Again, my kids, this is not their first rodeo around, you know, who has what and body parts and stuff like that, but this is some more explicit discussion. So, you know, some things, like, they show how, you know, girls sit and boys stand. Okay. And why, you know, why does that happen? The head to toe, back view, head to toe, and it names all the body parts. There is also a front view, head to toe, naming all the body parts. A more explicit discussion, front view, for boys, naming all the body parts that you can see and that you can't see, they're inside. Girls view, again, naming all the body parts, including a cartoon pictorial of the clitoris, the opening of the urethra, the opening of the vagina, the vulva. So just putting it out there. And then also what's under the skin that we can't see. Another thing that is in there, very specific conversation about sperm and eggs. It's Not the Stork. Now, this caused a lot of controversy in the reviews on Amazon. Again, this is okay for our household, but I just want to put it out there. So if somebody says, Dr. J said this was a good book, and I can't believe, I have told you up front, it has this. So there is a picture. This is the picture that causes lots of controversy because it shows a woman and a man. Okay, in my house, my kids just assume that when reproduction happens, it's a husband and wife. We haven't explained it like that, but that's the household that they grew up in, and so and it's pretty much the consistent norm for our family. So, you know, my daughter, I noticed that one time when Faster Fox, she said, you know, I killed a boy mosquito, which is good because now the girl mosquito won't be able to get married and have babies with him. And so that's just so when my kids see this picture, they will assume that it is a husband and a wife. But It is a man and a woman. And the book doesn't say husband and wife. It just says grown-ups, okay, and how they make babies. And it actually says it's called, it says making love, having sex, or sex. And then it tells you what happens using the correct vocabulary, clinical vocabulary. And then, so I'm just showing you guys the book, and again, it's something that it's okay for my household, but I just needed to have, this is my really explicit conversation with Salamander, so I know that he understands all of it. We've had good touch, bad touch conversations. We had where do babies come from conversations, but this is our next go around, so that I know it's clear for him. Okay, this is important for our household, like, babies coming, twins and quadruplets and triplets and all that kind of stuff. It talks about the birthing process. No real explicit pictures. The only thing that it shows the baby's out and the umbilical cord is still attached. The other, all kinds of families. This was one that caused a lot of controversy because it talks about how some families have one child, some families have 2 or 3 or 4 more children, some families have a mommy and a daddy, some have a mommy, some have a daddy, some have 2 mommies, some have 2 daddies. That statement is not a problem for our household because that's the reality that we live in. Some families do have 2 mommies, some families do have 2 daddies. We have family members that have in their household is 2 mommies. We have friends in their household is 2 daddies. So that's the reality that my kids know. So that's not a problem for us. But for some people, if that would be a problem for you and you would not want that conversation, I'm just letting you know that it's in the book. And so those are the big things. So that it's not the stork. And I took my time going through it so that if anybody, because that's probably the one that will be the most controversial because it seems so innocent because the pictures are so, they're so cute. And so I wanted to make sure that if somebody bought it, based on what they perceive as a recommendation for me, you know what you're getting. And yes, I know what's in there and it's okay for us, but I completely respect that it may not be okay for everybody. So, next, what I'm using for Faster Fox. Now, with Faster Fox, we're dealing with body, puberty, that sort of stuff, but we also are tackling some of the emotional issues. She's starting to get those, pre-adolescent emotions and stuff like that, and we're really also working with her on finding her voice, speaking up for herself, that sort of thing. That's something that we're really working on with her because she's very laid back, very, very docile almost, and I had to get resources because that's not my personality at all. I am very assertive. I can be aggressive at times. And so having a child where that's not their personality, I knew I had to bring in some help because, for me, I'm just like, well, the next time somebody does that, just, handle it, throw a punch, get it over with, come on, And so, no, I don't really tell them to be violent. We tell people to talk. We tell them to talk it out. We tell them to tell an adult. We tell them to remove themselves from the situation. And only if you cannot remove yourself from the situation and you must defend yourself in order to remove yourself from the situation. So I'm not telling my daughter to go, punch people in the eye or anything like that. Just the only time she is ever to, or any of my kids are ever to use physical violence is to defend themselves until they can remove themselves from the situation. So, but my daughter, we had situations where she would not even defend herself. She just, you push her and she'd be like, okay, I was in your way. And so that's not healthy. Just like being aggressive and violent and a bully is not healthy, being the other end of that, and allowing yourself to be bullied without feeling like you needed to defend yourself or you needed to tell somebody, that's not healthy either. And so she was kind of going in that direction where it was just like, oh, that person hit me, maybe they're having a bad day, I'll just let it go. And then it would happen again, if we'd be somewhere, at a museum or something like that, and some kid would come and just push her out the way, and she just, be like, well, that's how it is. So we really had to work on, like, no, you don't have to be mean, but you have a right to exist. You have a right to take up space. You have a right to be where you are. And people don't have a right to yell at you, scream at you, hurt you intentionally. So that's why I have some of the resources that I have for her. The first we have is The Care and Keeping of You. And this is the body book for younger girls. They have Care and Keeping of You too, and that's for older girls, but she is only 7. And so we still have some years. She's going to be 8 in a few weeks, but still we have some years. But I thought this was good because it gives her an introduction to some of the changes that will be taking place. And it also reinforces the things that I've been telling her about just, how you brush your teeth and keeping clean and knowing your body and all that other sort of stuff. And it goes over kind of the big deal, what we prepare our daughters for, and that is getting their menstrual cycle. And so it does talk about that in depth. And so this will be one of the books we're using. I also got the journal because she's really she really enjoys like journaling and all that kind of stuff, and writing and having her own little books. So I did get the Care and Keeping of You journal, and it goes with the book. It's for younger girls, and it has things like about me, about my body, who am I like? Am I like mom, dad, another relative? It's a girl power sort of book, and getting to know yourself and all that other sort of stuff. So that's her first book that we have. Another book that we have is Stand Up for Yourself and Your Friends, Dealing with Bullies and Bossiness and Finding a Better Way. So I did get this book for her, and it deals with I've read through it, and it's really good. It talks about how to who to tell, what are some words that work, staying strong, what if staying strong isn't working, how do you get support, that sort of stuff, because she's at that age where she's going to be getting more independent. So I'm not always going to be around and right there and seeing exactly what happens. So I want to make sure that she has the words that she needs to help advocate for herself as much as she should be advocating for herself at her age. Everything else I'll handle, but it's time to clip back a little bit. This also has a journal that I got with it, the Stand Up For Yourself journal, and I thought it was great because it gives them a little plan, some of the similar things that are in the Care and Keeping of You journal, but it also goes through, what I like is it goes through role play situations, and it has you really think things out. What can I do? How would I go about this? If this happens, how would I react? I found that for Faster Fox, that is great for her, really having a plan in advance. And the plan in advance that they help you come up with in this book is a more gradual 0 to 10 than what mommy knows. And so this is much more aligned with her personality, and I'm not trying to raise her to be me or be like me. I want her to be the amazing her that she is. And so this is a good one. Another one that I got was the Feelings book. And it's also in that American Girl series. This is the feelings book, The Care and Keeping of Your Emotions. And it covers how do you feel, what are feelings, and your mood meters, the brain, the body, and butterflies, how do you really feel, the voice inside, help, and that's help is things covered under that is I'm scared, I feel anxious, I'm so jealous, I've been disrespected, I'm angry, I'm lonely, I'm really sad, I'm grieving, I don't feel safe. Another area is feeling positive. The good stuff, look around, keep it up. So it ends on the positive stuff, feeling positive. And so we got the feelings book, and I thought I had a workbook for that, but I don't see it. I may have left it in the room, or it may have fallen down. And then I got this one, A Smart Girl's Guide to Knowing What to Say, Finding the Words That Fit Any Situation. And again, this is because of Faster Fox's personality. Faster Fox talks a lot at home, but we found that when she's out, she doesn't talk. And she's really friendly. She's really nice. But, you know, we would get to the point where we would just say, okay, so did you meet anybody? Yeah. Well, what's their name? I don't know. And then I stepped back and I noticed some interactions with her where, you know, other little girls would come up and they would say, hi, you know, what's your name? And she would say her name, and then that was it. She didn't really, she's so shy that she doesn't really continue the conversation until she really gets to know the person and she's comfortable with this. So she has some friends that she's really comfortable with, and they talk and they have a good time, but they have to carry the weight until she's comfortable. But as she gets older and she's in more situations, I wanted her to be able to find her own voice and not just be friends with people who, you know, wanted to put in the work to befriend her first, but she gets to choose from a wider audience by being able to carry the conversation. And this book covers small talk, and I love it because we've actually used some of this stuff. I actually used this for her before she went to camp, and it worked. The small talk chapter, that was things like 25 things to say after hi, 25 questions to know someone better, what to say when you're the new girl, what to say when someone else is new, what to say when talking with adults, compliments and confident body language. Asking for what you want is the next section. Making it right. And that's, you know, how to apologize for almost anything. What to say if you betray your friend. What to say if you hurt someone on purpose. What to say if you forget something important. You know, it just goes through these different scenarios. Other things that hurts is another category. Sad times is a category. I'm embarrassed. Saying the right thing. And I really like this book because, again, this is where Faster Fox and I have completely different personalities. I mean, y'all know I can talk. I mean, I'm sitting up here doing, you know, 40-minute videos to a camera. So talking is not a problem. And I've found that sometimes when there's something that's just natural for me, it's really hard for me to figure out how to piece it and lead my kids to get to where their space should be. And so having a book like this is nice because, you know, I'm that person, like, I ain't talk to people in line at the grocery store. You know, like, hey, what's up? But if you're not that kind of a person, kind of having those things in place is good. So, and they're age appropriate. They're, for instance, under the 25 things to say after hi, it says, I'm, and you put your name, what's your name, how's it going, I'm in the 5th grade, what grade are you in, I wish I had bought my book, do you like to read? And, you know, just little things that you can say to kind of fill out, hey, would this person be somebody who would be a good friend? And the other two are just kind of just fun little books. This is which are you quiz, and it's just a little fun book, little teaser book for her, like which city are you, which cupcake are you, which movie style are you. So this is just a fun book when she's waiting on her brothers and she doesn't have anything to do. And then the Bored No More book, again, this is just a fun book for her to tag around with when she's out with her brothers. Now, y'all hanging in there with me? I'm almost done. Speedster. Okay, Speedster is, I told you guys that for him, he is now officially in that pre-adolescence where we're at the beginning stages of puberty for him. And so I got him the body book for boys, and it fits for our household. And I'll let you know the kind of things that it says, how to get the most out of this book, when to expect what, a timeline, chapter 1, heads up, chapter 2, the lowdown on the upper body, chapter 3, time to get private, chapter 4, get a leg up, chapter 5, oh boy. And I'm going to talk about what's in those things because I know that those content chapters meant absolutely nothing. So what to expect, a timeline. I thought this was great because it says, stage 1 of puberty, and okay, ages 10 or younger, this is when these things happen. Stage 2, ages 9 to 14. Stage 3, ages 10 to 14. Stage 4, ages 11 to 16. Stage 5, ages 12 to 17. So it just tells them what sort of happens in each of those kind of stages, and also when they might expect for it to happen. But it reiterates over and over again. These are averages, which means that people are going to be lower than the average, people are going to be higher than the average, but these are just some rough estimations. It has things about your face, like this is on acne, dealing with acne. Real guys use lotion. And it talks about, because look, I have to remind my child all the time, like, did you put on lotion before you left? Really? I carry some with me because I will look at him like, you didn't see that, Ashley? And also sunscreen, the importance of sunscreen. It has hair care. It has gel or not to gel. I thought that was funny. Facial hair, shaving, dental health, ears, eyes, glasses, if you wear glasses, what are some of the best glasses for different facial styles or features. What the neck, that's about voice changing and what happens when your voice starts to change. Adam's apple and what that's all about. And then for the upper body, it talks about different normal body types and how, some people are just naturally rounder, some people are just naturally long and lean. Some people are just naturally muscular. And then it talks about the do's and don'ts of lifting, of bodybuilding. Body odor, it's the pits. And then also straight talk about steroids and why you shouldn't do it. Taking the PU out of puberty, cleaning. Answering the question, can guys really grow breasts? Because some boys do as a part of their, puberty cycle. So, and then healthy exercise and eating, right? And watching your weight, making good food choices. trying to get private. This is where goes over the male sex organ, and then what are the early clues to what's happening. It does have a visual of the various changes that take place for the male sex organs. Protecting down there, why you kind of want to start wearing a cup when you do sports. Taking care of their genitals, whether they're circumcised or uncircumcised. And cleaning their behinds. And also starts getting into what is an erection, ejaculation, wet dreams, when they happen, why they happen, are they normal. Then look, after each section, there's also always little quizzes. Leg up is about, just growing overall, your height growth, being smart about your exercise and the sports that you're doing. What happens if you do think you injured yourself? This is something that's really important because a lot of times, especially for boys, if they think they're going to get in trouble, they won't say if they think they injured themselves. And hiding an injury, especially something that might end up being a hairline fracture or something like that, can have lifelong consequences. So it talks about that. Eating right, like calcium. And this is foot smelling. Foot odor. What is athlete's foot? Battling blisters. And then what's going on in there? This is about transitioning into from childhood to adulthood, and what is puberty all about. This is about how do people hitting puberty at different times, and how that affects growth and height and stuff, and how people can be really different. This one deals with some of the emotional issues that guys have, and dealing with those. I'm not sure who my real friends are, and just being clear that friendship comes easier for some kids than for other kids. What peer pressure and those sorts of things. What happens if they're the ones who are being bullied? How do they handle that? Who can they go to talk to? It doesn't just say talk to teachers. It talks about talking to parents as well. It even deals with things like sibling rivalry. Having them come to grips with their emotions. A lot of times we expect girls to be emotional, but guys, especially when they're going through puberty, they can be just as emotional as girls. Getting enough sleep. Stress. How to handle that, always, feeling like they're stressed a lot. And then 15 things that every teen should do once. They talk about things like playing an instrument, hitting a fastball, learning to cook, learning CPR, tie a necktie, dance, catch a fish, change a tire. And so I think it's a great book for Speedster. He's going into the 5th grade, even though he's a little on the younger side at 9. But he's going to, because he does have that grade skip, he's going to be around guys who are older. And also, since he's done residential camp, and he's going to continue to do residential camps and stuff like that, so he's going to be around lots of guys. And so it's important for him to not only know what's going on with his body, but also understand that other people may be changing in ways that maybe he's not changing in that way yet, but they are. So I thought that was a good book for him. Now, this is a book that we're using now. This book is on the wait list. Okay, it's The Boy's Guide to Becoming a Teen. This is probably at least 2 years out for us, at least. It covers a lot of the same topics, but it has Welcome to Puberty, Eating, Exercise, and a Healthy Weight, Your Height, Your Skin, Teeth, and Hair, Your Reproductive System, Inside and Out, Erections, Wet Dreams, and Masturbation, Your Feelings, Relationships, What About Sex, and Where You Can Find Out More. And so it has some of the same topics, things like when will I start to get taller, why are girls in middle school generally taller than a lot of boys, why do your feet grow so much faster than the rest of you. But I'll get to the topics that are probably a little more on the a little bit controversial. This one is on piercing and tattoos, and it talks about how some can be safe, but don't pierce yourself or let your friends do it. And we all remember that Cosby Show episode when Theo got his ears pierced. So yeah, you sometimes still have to have those conversations. I'm seeing a lot of guys that teenagers trying to get like the jailhouse tattoos, where you have somebody who's not licensed do it. Why you have to brush and floss every day. Facial hair. It again has visuals of the organs. And then chapter 6 probably is one of the more controversial ones, because it does talk about wet dreams, and it does say what masturbation is, and it talks about the mythbusters that are things that are not true about masturbation. It answers the question, can masturbation do anything bad to me? And is it possible to do it too much? And so one of the most controversial statements, I would say, for some people who maybe have very specific views, I want to let you know that this statement is in the book. And that is, it says, for teenagers, masturbation is a safe way to relieve sexual tension without having to worry about pregnancy, having a sexual relationship with another person, or getting a sexually transmitted disease. So that is in there, okay? I know different religious views may or may not agree with that statement. I want to be clear that the statement is in there. It talks about feeling angry, feeling stressed, feeling worried, all those kind of things. It talks about another chapter on relationships. And as it talks about relationships, it talks about cliques and peer pressure and that sort of stuff. It talks about friends doing things, trying to pressure you, smoking, drinking, being bullied. And then chapter 9 is what about sex? And I read the book. It basically tells you, for this section, it basically says you should wait until you're older. But it does not define that. It tells what to do. What can you do instead of having sex, basically. It talks about how to know if you're ready to date, and it does say very clearly that people. It says there's no right answer to this question, but it says some parents allow their kids to go out on group dates, but not one-on-one dates. And it says you also need to ask yourself, so basically it says your parents are in charge, but you also need to ask yourself if you're ready. So it does defer to parents. And, how can I talk to my parents about dating? How will I know when I'm ready to kiss someone? That is covered. Sexual responsibility. I really like this section because it just basically gives it to them. Why is it better to wait until I'm older to think about being more sexual with someone? It does cover that. So basically it's telling them you need to wait, and then it's telling them why. And then another possibly controversial topic, but one of the reasons why I like this book, what is sex? And it talks about sexual intercourse versus oral sex versus anal sex. The reason why I like this section, those folks that are on my Facebook page, you guys know I did a big post about this recently, was that in my research I found that a lot, and I studied kids that were between the ages of 9 and 14, a couple 15, 16-year-olds, but my base was 9 to 14, and a lot of people identified themselves as virgins. That was their identity, but in the research, it showed that they had participated in oral sex or anal sex. And so a lot of and parents and teachers and counselors would you'd say, do you think, this group of kids, or with parents, do you think your child is a virgin? Yes, my child told me they're a virgin, and I believe my child. Well, the child did say that they were a virgin, and the child believed they were a virgin because the hymen was not broken, or because they did not have vaginal sex. And so the child believed that they weren't having sex. So they didn't know that oral sex was sex, and they didn't know that anal sex was sex. And the parents didn't know that the children were engaging in these sorts of activities. And we're talking about 9. My youngest participants were 9. And yes, I had some 9-year-olds. And the kids I did research in churches. I did research in schools, hospital health programs, and after school programs. So I had kids from all different walks of life, different socioeconomic statuses, different race, ethnic groups, all of them at. And one consistency was they didn't know what sex was. And they didn't perceive that oral sex or anal sex was sex. And so that's why I like this book. I am waiting. Speedster won't deal with this yet at 9, but we've already had a pretty explicit conversation with him about what all the sex mean. But for him, he's still Speedster has not been exposed to a whole lot, and so his world is a little bit smaller than other people's world. But the more that he goes out and interacts with other people who kind of have bigger worlds, so we have to make sure that he's prepared for that, and so we have to have those conversations. But that was one of the biggest. There were 2 big issues that I found in my research, and that was kids not knowing what sex was and engaging in all types of sexual activity and thinking they were still a virgin and they didn't really have sex, and therefore their parents and pastors and counselors and teachers didn't realize how much sex was going on. And the other was not knowing how to reclaim their body. And what I mean by that is they would say yes to this much, but they didn't know how to stop when the other person wanted that much. And so there were a lot of situations that could probably, to me and to a lot of laws, fall under rape. But the children didn't know that they had been raped or that they did rape because they didn't know. Like, there were people who there were large groups of kids that believed that if you consented a little bit, you had to go all the way. And so, hey, if you French kiss, since you allowed that to happen, you gotta go all the way. And so that was one thing that I wanted to make sure that I was doing with my kids, was just being really straight up with them about stuff, and knowing that they're always in charge of their body. They get to decide. Of course, they know I would love for them to just be chaste until the day they get married. But realistically, I know that everybody has to make those decisions for themselves. And so I wanted to make sure that my kids were in a situation where they knew that their body is always their body, and they always get to be in charge of their body, always. And it isn't because I'm really liberal in my views. Some people think I'm extremely liberal. Some people think I'm really conservative, because I'm kind of like in the middle on a lot of things. And so that seems like too much for people who are very conservative, and too little for things that are people that are very liberal. But because of my background, I'm also very realistic, and and I've seen it. I've seen hundreds of kids that were doing things that make your head spin, and they weren't bad kids. They weren't at all. They weren't bad kids at all. They just, kids, adolescents think differently than adults, and I have to remind myself of how little brain function I had when I was an adolescent, and know that my kids aren't going to be any different. And so I have to give them as much cushioning as I can to hope they make it on the other side without doing too many really stupid things. And so these are some of the books that I have for our family. I'm not saying that they're going to be good for anybody. I'm not saying that they're going to work for anybody. What I wanted to do is show you guys the books so that you could make a more informed decision on what you wanted to do for your family. These are the only books I have. So I know there's some other ones that are really controversial. I didn't feel like we needed them because, what I had, I felt was going to meet our needs. So I can't comment on any of the other ones. I can't say if something would be good or bad, because I got the things that we were going to use for our household, and my kids are younger, so I don't, we will probably be going back through this again when they hit, 14, 15, back through this again in a different way before they go off to college. So, those conversations just change as your kids mature. But I hope that this helps. And I know that this is a tough one. This is a tough one for everybody. I mean, whether your kids are homeschooled, public school, private school, whatever, the fact that you're going to have this conversation over and over and over again, it's tough, because we don't, especially for when you have to have those conversations, like, don't, but if you do, which is those conversations that we have, especially as kids get older, as our kids get older, and, it's more like right now it's just like, don't, because I said so. And they like, okay, but I know as the older they get, the more it's don't, but if you do, don't, but if you do. Okay. So that's just, me showing you guys these books. Like I said, I like them. I think they're going to work for us. They're consistent with some of the things that I thought made good conversation starters, but, your mileage may vary for your household, but I hope this was helpful. Anyway, so this is Dr. J, and I'm out. Bye-bye.